Hey, today I'm sharing some of a portfolio review I had with Clary Huang in the US. She has a background in design, and I think that experience shows. She's not yet working as an illustrator, or at least wasn't when we spoke, but I don't think it's going to take too long. Clary has made a great portfolio, and as you'll see, most of my comments were really about what I wanted to see more of and some suggestions for other things she could add in to round it out a little bit. I'm really happy to say that since we spoke, Clary has already made some of these changes to her portfolio, so I'd encourage you to go and take a look at the link in the description and give her a follow on Instagram and send her some support. Thanks to Clary for letting me share this, and I hope you'll find it interesting. If you'd like to get your portfolio reviewed and let me share it on YouTube for the benefit of other illustrators, there's a link in the description. If you prefer it wasn't recorded, that's also fine. Enjoy! Hello,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm always in this creative field. So I was a full-time graphic designer for the past 12 years for different companies, focusing on branding, and marketing. But illustration is always something that I had a passion for. So I've been drawing since I was little, but like really focusing on illustration career is this past 2 years. So it's not too long ago. But this is something that I realized that I really want to focus on for my career moving forward, and that's where I am right now.
Yeah, good. Well, I think your experience shows. I mean, you have a good eye for this. The first thing I want to ask is, what's your goal? What are your goals with illustration?
Yeah, so because I think I really love kid literature fields, and my goal is one day I really want to illustrate my own book, but also I would love to illustrate other authors' stories and bring them to life. And that's my current goal right now. Like I really want to illustrate children's books. Um, but I think illustration journey is a very long journey, and they're different stage. I know like at some point, like in the future, I might shift to like broaden my fields to not just only focusing on the book publishing part, but also could be incorporated with design just because that's also my background.
Mhm.
Um, when I say design, I'm talking about like more commercial sides of it, like editorial and then also packaging, like, but that's like completely different fields. But yeah, that could be the goal in the future.
Okay. And how much work are you getting at the moment as an illustrator?
Right now is none.
Okay.
But it's just because I literally just like really started it and then start reaching out to people. And as you know, like right now, I started it like maybe early summer this year to really reaching out to people. But um, summertime, people on holidays, and then later on, um, follow up with them, but still like nothing heard back just yet. But yeah, and now it's holidays again. So, but I know like you just have to keep follow up and keep pushing and keep reaching out to different people.
Sure. So it's early days, but I think my first impression when I looked at your website was that I mean, you've got the skills. You've clearly got the skills, and you've got the creative eye. And I really do like your style. So this conversation, that most of the notes I've made, it's more a case of me telling you things that I want to see more of.
Mm.
There's only one real comment that I have that I think could be an improvement in the style, which we'll get onto in a second. But this is a really strong portfolio. You've got everything I would expect to see from a children's book illustrator. You've got environments and backgrounds and different kinds of characters. Um, I a couple of observations. Maybe you could use some more human interaction. So obviously you've got a lot of animals animal characters, but that's in the kind of a fantasy realm. But a lot of kids' books now, I mean, I'm definitely no expert on kids' books, but I know there are a lot that have more human interaction. So kids interacting with other kids, kids interacting with their parents or grandparents, that kind of thing. Um, and there's you do have some of it. You do have some of that here. But again, this is just something that I think it would be good to see more of. That
Mm,
human interaction, how kids are interacting with parents or other kids. I think that would be good. I want to see more book covers. Yeah, definitely.
okay.
So you could imagine any kind of story really, or even adapt some of the scenes you've got and make them into a book cover format, just to see how your work would look on a book cover, because obviously that's going to be really important in selling those books. You could also display some of the characters separately. Now you do have some of this already. Again, this is just another thing I'd like to see more of. But I think what's really important for books like this that are character driven is being able to see that um, uh, the main character, let's say, in lots of different poses, positions, um, just so that it can be recognizable throughout the book. And I think I can see that in your portfolio. But again, this is more about making it obvious to somebody looking. So, because I've looked at your portfolio, quite intensely for the last half an hour while I've been preparing for this chat.
Right.
But for a quick glance, I would say it would be good to have a couple of your main characters. Maybe it's the lemur, but he's a really interesting character, I think. So maybe a character sheet, basically. So you've got the character from the front, the character from the side, maybe the character performing a couple of different actions, and then you could display the character sheet. Then you could also display the environment, his kitchen, separately, and also then you could get into some icons and objects. Let's say some of the ingredients he's using, some of the pots and pans with the food in, which look great, I think. Um, but sometimes seeing it out of the context of the what might be an illustrated page can just help people see them in a different way and see them on their own merits.
Mm,
Does that make
I
sense?
see. Yeah. And when you talk about separate so everything can still be within this gallery setup. It's not necessary saying that I need to create a separate page on the website to display these type of things, right?
No,
It's
I don't
more
think
of
so.
like the content itself, it can be separate.
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
mean,
Okay.
in terms of the usability of your website and how it looks, I think it's perfect. It shows the images nice and big. It's simple. There's not too much to distract anybody. It's very clear what you do and what you're good at, and I think that's absolutely fine. I don't have any suggestions there at all, really.
Okay.
So, just returning to my point about the human interactions, maybe you could think up some scenarios that are, that a child in normal life, not in like a fantasy life, might encounter. So that could be classrooms, could be parents taking them to a playground, could be cooking in the kitchen with grandma, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny you said that because a few days ago I literally just working on sketch.
yeah.
And it's like
Just
about school setting, and oh it's blurry, but there you
oh,
go.
okay. Yeah, see
Like
that.
some school setting stuff, and I thought of it like yeah, and that's a good advice. Yep.
Well, the map of Tokyo stood out to me on this page. Although it is, child friendly, this, I would say this map is for adults, right?
Yeah, it's more like a piece that could be featured in a magazine, travel magazines.
Well, I really like it. And so I guess I want to ask you how interested, if you are interested at all, in reaching different kinds of clients. You mentioned earlier that maybe you see that in your future, but is there any reason you wouldn't want to do that now?
I had the conversation before with other illustrators before, and they mentioned about sometimes you need to be very focused with what you're doing. Um, and then I thought maybe I should just focus on like kid lit right now instead of thinking about editorial and um, different kind of fields. But I guess you're right. Like, broaden your opportunities or your fields is not a bad thing. They actually have create more chances of like working on different things, and that could be very interesting as well. And also just that's also part of like your tool tricks, like in your bags, like um strengthen your skills in a way as well as storytelling. That's all part of that process of creating these things, like including maps and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm not like completely saying no to that. I guess I was just not sure if that's considered as not focus.
Yeah, I understand. I like that map because I guess it appeals to me more personally because I'm not that interested in kids books. I don't have kids or
Right.
anything like that, you know. So um but I don't think it stands out in a bad way. I don't think it makes your portfolio look unfocused. It still looks like you. You know, it's kind of different, but not in a negative way. And maybe there are some small steps that you could take to just kind of zoom out a little bit to think about other kinds of children related clients that you would like to work for. So that could be children's products or children's clothes, children's games, apps, all kinds of things. And then you're still sort of working in the same area. And when you show your portfolio to a publisher, they'll say, this person's great for kids illustrations. You know, you're still in that circle.
I think diversity portfolio is a good thing. So yeah, like if you don't mind dive into that area a little deeper, that would be great. Because
Okay.
yeah, because I only know a little bit about like packaging or like editorial side of it, just because from background, but not like saying I'm the expert of that. So I would love to hear um
Okay.
more
Well,
advice on that.
let's start with packaging. Using your experience with packaging, how could you apply your style to children's packaging for children's products? Children, it could be children's food, could be children's toys, whatever. Do you think your style could work for those kinds of products?
I think so. Um, I can see that like packaging for that kind of things that when we're trying to approach to um, new clients, potential new clients, do we kind of like come up with a concept ourselves and then make a mock-up of it to show what we can do? Because obviously I don't have like real project right now to say, hey, this is a client work. But is that how usually people approach this? Like they create a concept and then mock it up and then send it to clients and pitch that.
Pretty much.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay,
I think so. You know, if you want to work in just like you've done with your publishing portfolio here, you want to work in kids' books, so you've mocked up some kids' books. You've
that's
mocked
true.
up
Yeah,
characters. So if you wanted to branch out into packaging, all you need to do is apply your style to something that's appropriate for that. Now, in packaging, you might have, let's say, for children's food packaging, you you'll often have like a fun character maybe you'd need to approach it slightly differently to make them more bold. So it could be brighter colors. A lot of the texture you've got in your illustrations here, it works really well for on a printed page in a book, but for more eye-catching projects where you've got to catch someone's attention as they walk by, maybe it would need to be less textured, a little bit brighter, so it pops off the product a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could also apply that same logic to a book cover. Book covers
Mm.
the way you draw a book cover wouldn't necessarily be the way you draw the inside page of a book because you'd want it to be bolder.
Right.
Yeah, and I can see that here with the giggling ghost. Packaging and products. I think you could apply your style really well to that. Maybe it would need some adjustment and some experimentation. But again, for packaging, patterns would be really good. So even taking a few of your elements from the existing illustrations, let's say you've got this kind of beach ball here, maybe some of the ramen things. I'm not suggesting you use all these together. You've also got
Right.
the
Right.
girl running with the lantern, and a balloon. All these kinds of things could be expanded into a pattern. And then when you've got patterns, that opens up not just packaging, but also products to like stationery or greetings cards, wrapping paper, that kind of thing, which could be another avenue that might be interesting for you. So what else have we got? Children's clothes also, lots of patterns. I see a lot of yeah. There was something actually that I didn't see in your portfolio that I see in a lot of children's stuff now, and that's dinosaurs. I mean, it's the dinosaurs are always popular for kids, right? Dinosaurs and space, maybe, and also I'd be interested to see some more nature, some more green nature, let's say, because you've got a lot of natural elements in here, but an environment I would usually expect to see in kids' book appropriate portfolios like gardens, jungles, woodland.
Mm.
I can see hints of it here, but again, it's just something that I think you could add more of. The one thing I do want to talk about, which is maybe something for you to work on, some of your characters' eyes, the way you draw eyes, can give them kind of a fairly vacant stare, and I think the expressiveness of the eyes could be improved. So, for example, here you've got a girl eating a piece of pie. The brown parts in her eyes suggest she is looking down at the pie, but the rest of her eye, the white of her eye and the shape of her eye suggests that her eyes are wide open, looking straight forward. So there's just kind of a little bit of a mismatch there, I think. I'm trying to imagine looking at a piece of pie now and how my eyes would be. So I wouldn't have my face straight forward and then I'd just move my eyeballs down, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So there's
Like
there's
the
something.
angle.
Yeah, I don't think you need to change the angle of the head necessarily, but maybe the shape of the white part of the
Mm.
eye could be adjusted to just so it looks more like she's looking down. And again, with the girl in the bath here, to me, it doesn't quite look like she's looking directly at the ghost. And maybe again, that's to do with the shape of the eye. People connect with the eyes, so they're really an important part of characters. And if it looks like the eyes are slightly not looking where they're supposed to, I find it more difficult to connect.
Mm.
Now, actually, strangely, you've got this kind of doctor, maybe character here who's just got two dots, and I
Right.
find his eyes very expressive. Maybe it's the glasses. There's something about that I really like.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I think perspective of it and like the angle of it, some I know what you're saying. Like some of them probably could be better because just like how they look at things or how they interact with another character in the illustration.
Hmm.
Um, I agree with you, like angle is quite important because if the angle is not right, or the perspective of things is not right, then it's will mislead people. Like they will know like what this character is looking at um or the action of it, like what are they doing. So yeah, that's a good point that
Hmm.
definitely would love to work on that and see how I can improve it.
Just one last suggestion, which could be again helpful if you want to appeal to different kinds of clients, and that's recipes, food. I mean,
Mm,
I talk about food illustrations all the time, but recipes for kids could be interesting because that would enable you to work on a set of illustrations that aren't necessarily specifically for children, but they are appropriate for children. And then you could work on different stages of a recipe. And maybe you have a character with it doing the cooking, a child or
mm,
whatever. So we mentioned earlier just an idea, a child cooking in the kitchen with grandma. So you could have a scene there, but then you could also show the stages of whatever they're cooking, if they're baking a cake or whatever, and that could be an interesting way to show. Well, I guess a plate of food or recipes, they're objects, really, aren't they? And you can show the different stages. It shows a bit of not narrative necessarily, but it's instructional. So then, if a food magazine, they look at your work and they think, okay, well, it's mostly for kids, but I can also see that this artist draws really delicious looking food. And the reason I thought of this was because of your illustration of the chef, which I really like. Um, there's something, yeah, the way you've drawn the noodles in here and the broth and all the tins and plates you've got in the background. I think this is such a really nice, rich scene, and to be honest, I'd just like to see more of it. Of all the things we've spoken about, which ones resonated with you the most?
it will be like the area that I'm currently missing from my portfolio that I would love to work on it and then definitely add them into the site and such as like the human interaction,
Mhm.
which is like focusing on like kids interacting with other kids or parents or any other human. Um, and then also like we talk about the character and environment, separate them in different pieces and just trying to show um, not just the narrative um, illustrations I already have, but also showing like something that's separate from
Okay.
like the full piece. Those are really good. And I also would love to work on the expressive of eyes. That's something that's like um, a um, huge things. I would say like just so you can connect with the audience quicker. And that's definitely something I need to improve. Lastly, will be like the create more of the elements that can fit into other fields, such as like design area, like packaging, editorial, um, patterns, those things. And it's not necessary, like you said, like to have to think about like how to recreate everything, but something that if I already have, how do we repackaging them into a different format and then showcasing in the website?
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Mm.
See you soon.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thanks again to Clary, and I'll see you next time.